Greetings, degenerates. St. Michael here. And remember Hillary Clinton, that woman that almost 10 years ago could have been the president of the United States? Well, on the heels of Kamala Harris backtracking the fact that she did say she didn't pick Pete Buttigieg as her potential vice president because he was gay, and then picked Tim Walz because he's super masculine. Yes, the woman who called about 50% of the American population, at least the American voting population, absolute deplorables.
You know, to just be grossly generalistic, you could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Right?
Yeah, her. She decided to come out and really slither out of her hole, wherever that is, to make more disparaging comments against the American population. And I think it's fitting that we have this new setup to talk about what is potentially the most demon-possessed politician, at least in America. So, according to the Western Journal, Hillary Clinton accuses white Christian men of doing such damage to the United States. Considering that just the other week that a white Christian man was just assassinated, I automatically am just not hearing any of this bullshit, especially as one myself. Now let's go through this. When the demon inside former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton speaks, at least it provides clarity. Indeed, in the wake of the conservative Christian icon Charlie Kirk's assassination in Utah 2 weeks ago, unhinged Democrats like Clinton have made no secret of the fact that they regard Christianity and those who profess it as their mortal enemy. Socialists tend to do so. Look at Hitler's own words on the faith. Wednesday on MSNBC's Morning Joe with co-host Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, Clinton first laid out the classic straw man argument before declaring that white Christian men are doing such damage to the United States. Tell me, how many white Christian men are school shooters? How many are terrorists? How many of those white Christian men are running around London raping the women? Oh, we're not allowed to talk about that because it's not. Of course, the former Secretary of State lacks the courage to say the word Christian because she's a massive cunt directly. But no one who listened to her repulsive comments could mistake her meaning. The idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, Clinton said in a clip posted on social media platform X, dominated by, let's say white men, of a certain persuasion, certain religion, certain point of view, certain ideology is just doing such damage to what we should be aiming for. I'm sorry, but I don't want to preference the white part, but yes, white Christian men built this country. We are founded on, if you don't want to believe Judeo, at least you could say Christian values. That is where our founding comes from. End of discussion. You do not get the principles that are espoused by our founders for this country without Jesus. That's not a debate. Now let's take a listen to what this repulsive woman has to say.
And I'm proud of the fact that we have always been a work in progress. We haven't gotten to the more perfect union, and we
never will. That's why it says more perfect. We strive each generation to get better.
Fought a civil war over part of it. Mm-hmm. And people have been protesting, for hundreds of years.
What you guys do is not protesting. Look at the 2020 riots versus the 2025 vigils held all over the country for Charlie Kirk. We are not the same.
Things were not as they should be, given our ideals and how we should be moving toward them. So I think that's what makes us so special as a country. And the idea that you could turn the clock back and try to recreate a world that never was, dominated by let's say it, white men of a certain persuasion, a certain religion.
I am so annoyed, and yes, I already read this. I'm so annoyed of this. You could tell whenever someone does that, they are fucking lying because they are grasping at words to say. It's one of the things that bugged me so much about listening to Obama for 8 years because that's everything he does.
Religion, a certain point of view, a certain ideology, it's just doing such damage to what we should be aiming for. And we were on the path toward that. I mean, imperfectly, lots of, bumps along the way, but I agree with you. We were on the right trajectory.
No, we weren't, which is why America said no. We wanted Trump, and we got him again, thank God. He's not perfect, but no one is. And what trajectory did you want? An influx of mass migration that would lead to rape, crime, murder? I mean, we just got past a fucking bus stabbing not too long ago. Now, he wasn't an immigrant, but he shouldn't have been walking the streets. So, no. I'm sorry, when you look at California, when you look at Chicago, your plans don't work. First of all, no one wants to turn the clock back and recreate a bygone world. Democrats use that rhetoric device to stave off meaningful criticism of modern secularism. And see, this is the point. Look, I'm not here to browbeat you over what you believe. It's not my place. I don't know your heart, and I'm not going to stand on my pulpit, and preach to you. But secularism has failed this country, okay? It has. When you do not have value of life, you ruin any potential path forward. When you have things like, it's just a clump of cells. Well, it's just a clump of cells is no different than, they're just 3/5, or they're just genetically inferior. It's all an unholy trinity. You do not get the final solution without the idea that human life is not valuable, which comes from a eugenics point of view. Margaret Sanger hung out with the man who coined the term, and her ideas and racial-based infanticide, honestly, is what influenced Hitler's final solution. So secularism has failed this country. Regardless of what you believe, at least when we were more Christian, we could stave off some of this evil, at least acknowledge what it is. What you do in your house and your bedroom, it's not for me to say, but I don't need to see it paraded across the fucking streets. Now let's see. There was another clip here. Oh, here it is.
That raises a larger question. I mean, we have, and I include myself, we have got to stop demonizing each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now,
Oh, wow. I'm sorry, but what have you guys been doing for fucking 10 years at least? What have you been doing to Charlie Kirk for the last week? Demonizing, taking his words out of context to fit your fucking narrative.
You really have to wonder, in fact, if we would have said 3 weeks ago, Blake, if we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
I think most of that right now in our country's history is coming, from the right.
Just outright lying because no, it's not.
Coming from people who want to dominate. They want their point of view.
Just the lack of just any sense of irony here.
Writing out slavery from history, that doesn't.
We don't want to write out slavery from history. We just don't want it shoved in our face. Sorry, but those white Christian men you want to demonize, they fought and died to end the institution. Yes, there's far more involved with Civil War. I recommend the Razor Fist video on this, and it's mostly just delving into Abraham Lincoln. But yes, we fought a war to end slavery. Okay? The blood of those evil white Christian men were put on the ground to end the idea that man should be in bondage to another man.
Make it go
And by the way, it was the Republicans who did that. I don't like Abraham Lincoln. Again, see the Razor Fist video. But he was a Republican.
away. You know, we have got to stop with the finger pointing and the scapegoating. We can have legitimate disagreements.
You killed the guy who wanted to have legitimate disagreements. No, you don't.
Right? I mean, how do you provide quality, affordable health care to everybody? Let's figure that out. How?
Well, let's ask the European nations that don't have a military, because we are their military, so they have the free room to spend on their socialist healthcare programs, which ultimately don't work because there's long lines and people look at Canada. Yeah, no.
Do you deal with what's going to be job loss from AI? Let's get working on that. You know, that's what we should be doing, but we should do it in the truth-based reality.
I suggest you start with that yourself, former secretary.
Right.
That we have to live in. You know, facts and evidence have to matter again. And
Coming from the side that says men can get pregnant and that if you cut your dick off, you're now a woman.
then we can start having good debates. You know, when I was in the Senate for
Again, you killed the guy. No, you murdered the guy who wanted debate. Debate is over. In a response to Clinton's slander of white Christian men, one ex-user put it poignantly. What a bigot. She is. She absolutely is. It's okay to attack white Christian men. God damn, you ever say anything about other groups? The problem, of course, runs much deeper than ordinary bigotry. Prominent conservative commentator Jack I don't care, a friend of Kirk, explained. Here, what did he say? And there it is. Hillary reminds the violent left the target is white Christian men. And that's the key. She knows what she's doing. She's stirring up more hate. They want more events like Charlie Kirk. They want more of that to happen. That's why they're not toning down the violence, the violent calls for violent rhetoric. They're not. The same people that want to say, well, we need to lower the volume or lower the temperature. It's like, you first. How many times have we had to sit through them saying, let's draw a crowd around a Republican, don't let them have peace? You know, how many times have they gone to Republican politicians' houses with guns or bombs, and they want to say, well, what about Paul Pelosi? That wasn't a Republican conservative. That was his own boy toy who brought a fucking hammer for some sex reason. Alas, that kind of rhetoric comes naturally to Clinton. For instance, in October 2023, she suggested formal deprogramming, so concentration camps, of those who support President Donald Trump. Yeah, so they want you in accuse your enemy that which you are guilty of doing. They are using that playbook to a T. The typical Marxist, socialist, fascist, whatever. It's all the same flavor of dog shit ideology. And it comes from absolute secular hate. Karl Marx's favorite quote was, everything that exists deserves to perish. Meaning, he was a fucking outright nihilist. He didn't care. And these people are following it to a T. So, do they want honest debate? No. They killed the guy that did his entire career based on that. So, Hillary, I suggest you take a long, long look in the mirror before it cracks and think, who is the real enemy? People that look like me or people on your camp?
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
That's it right there, pulling up.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
That's all I have to say on this. Cheers. God bless.